You're good. You're good to go.
Okay. All right, so good evening, everyone. Tom Ostovich. And gentlemen I want to introduce tonight are with the Sheriff's Host Bureau. And HOST stands for Homeless Outreach Services Team. And we, the council, the Department of Regional Planning, and the Host Bureau deputies have been working on clearing some encampments along B4, that'd be north of the highway, over by, you've probably seen it, by the porta potties. The object here is to get the homeless into the services that they need and deserve. We want them, whether they need mental health services, drug and alcohol rehab, or even just better housing, and get them out of this desert. It's a pretty harsh environment for them. And also get the properties cleared. And also, by the way, we are also working with the property owners. It's a cooperative relationship. Get the properties cleaned up, help get them, the property owners in touch with companies that can clear the properties and maybe build fences. So right now, I'm going to introduce the deputies. I'll let the deputies introduce themselves.
If you guys just speak a little loud, and then everyone will be able to hear you in the interweb world.
All right. Mayor. I'm Sergeant Matt Covas of the Sheriff's Department's Homeless Outreach Services Team. And today we wanted to just kind of introduce ourselves, let you know we're available. We're here to help support your city and your community. And I want to introduce our team, which you have Deputy Josh Paulson, Deputy Robert Carrillo, and Deputy Sean Priestley. So these group of deputies right here are going to be basically your dedicated team. They serve the north end of the LA County, so the Antelope Valley, and specifically here in Pearblossom. And so they're also funded deputies from Supervisor Catherine Barger. They've funded 4 host deputies for this specific region, SD5. So they're here, they're your team, and I'll turn it over to them and let them kind of go a little more on what we had discussed a couple of weeks ago, probably about a month ago, Tom.
Been about that long, yeah.
Yeah, right about over here on the north end, about some of those parcels and that are owned by some of the community members, and we're here to help assist in that venture as well. But yeah, so we're here to help support you guys, and I'll turn it over to Bobby and Josh and Sean. Let them discuss a little further.
Hi there, Deputy Carrillo. So basically, speaking with Tom, there's 3 main parcels over on 126 and 127, which are the major areas of concern here. We have been in contact with other property owners, working with them, as Tom just mentioned. I did speak to Chuck Boswick. They are having a meeting. He didn't say exactly when. He believed, he said first or second week of April. There might be some state funds. He didn't promise anything, but he said he would let us know. There might be some funds that will help clean up that area, because there is one property owner that is pretty much saying, I don't have the money, I can't pay to clean up, but the other 2 adjacent property owners are willing to do the property cleanup now if they could.
Right.
But as I was speaking to Tom and my team, if we do clean those 2 up, what's going to happen, and you never know what's going to happen, but what can happen is we'll clean those up. The other encampment, she said she can't pay right now. What's going to happen is they're going to move over to their camp after they just paid for their cleanup. We're trying to do it all at once, but if that funding doesn't go through, then we have to, at least help those property owners that want those people off the property, and that's their privy if that's what they want. So we're going to assist them in that. That's our goal, is to do it all at once and figure out the date when, if those funds do come through, go and do our 2-week posting. And like Tom said, we're going to try to get them. We have our outreach components, Valley Oasis, LASA, them perfectly well, and we work with them all the time.
Yeah.
Try to get these individuals housed. I know not all of them want it, but at least they'll have plenty of time to know that a cleanup is coming and they're going to have to move. So that's basically, I know from what Tom did mention, but that's the biggest eyesore. I know they've got your stragglers in town. a lot of that. Obviously, it's gonna be the station, it would be, Deputy Cronin. And I'm sure he probably knows of, most of the people that are out here straggling around, right?
Right, well,
So I'm sure he knows. Obviously bring that to his attention. But we're always there to help anything that you guys need or he needs. You can always reach out to us as well.
Okay.
That's pretty much it in a nutshell. We're just waiting for that meeting to happen. And Mr. Bosworth to get back to us whether those funds get approved or not. As soon as he tells me that they're, hopefully they are, but if they're not, then we can move forward and then we can come to a game plan for that site.
Tom, are you familiar with parcel would need the help?
I believe it's the one in the middle. I don't have the AIN handy.
Okay, well, we'll go over that later. Maybe we can be a little proactive, especially with our cleanup coming up. And maybe we can take a trailer or two out there and relieve some of that and have them throw it on. Because one time I drove a trailer out there and those guys were so happy to throw the trash away. So maybe we can help a little bit that way.
Why not?
If we can.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that property doesn't have the majority of the trash per se. The one in the middle, the one that they are willing to move forward and pay. I can't think of her name off the top of my head, but the majority is on their property, in the middle.
Yes, I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
And they're good to go on theirs. So if we can just help out the one that says they don't have the funds to pay, maybe work something out with the person who they contract.
Would that be the one most on the west? Then the one on the east was cleaned, then the one in the middle.
Right, and then you got because there was three.
Right,
You got the one on the far east was cleaned up.
yes,
They did it on their own. They went in there. I think that's when some of the persons with homelessness got a little aggressive with the cleaning crew.
so is it the property then on the furthest east
I
or
think it's-
west, excuse me, west?
Furthest west, I believe.
Okay.
I just have to look at the map again, and see which, I know it's Lombardi was the lady, right?
Right, and she was saying she's the one that's having problems paying.
Correct.
Okay, Chris,
Yeah,
why don't we hit that one? I know the one they're talking about.
Yeah, let's try to see what
Okay.
we can do and
Yeah,
then
we can help them out.
I'll, for our cleanup, and I know you asked for the 200. And this is just gonna kind of overlap with that. So, I'd like to get trash bags for our cleanup. And also for the community center.
We
So,
get that going.
yeah, so I'm gonna try to get Mike to donate them, but if I have to.
If Mike doesn't donate, then I'll get a box, at least one box, a big box from Costco.
Cause then we can take it out to there and be like, hey, guys, bag all this up. We'll come pick it up in a week. And then they'll have them right there ready
You
to
think they'll
go.
do that?
They've done it before.
Okay.
Yeah, and they even have some, so, I mean, it's the best that we could try to help her with. And
Yep.
that might bring some of the costs down. So when we're asking Bostwick and all of them, it's not like asking for this, or just need a little bit to accomplish what we need to.
Right, because I'm sure they'll get, some out to do an estimate. Not only that, you're talking about also the RVs too, towing them, I believe. Was it you that inquired about tow truck on the large encampment? And they gave you an estimate, correct?
Well, the one, what I do know is the one company that cleaned up the property on the east took care of everything, vehicles, RVs, everything. Now, I wonder about that because, I mean, these are titled vessels, with VIN numbers, the whole thing, so I don't know. I don't know what they did.
Well, I'm gonna say half of those probably only, you'd be lucky to find the VIN on them.
Yeah.
Or even a plate that might even match anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had trouble just getting rid of a motorhome. I helped an elderly person and got them in housing and everything. And the motorhome had no paperwork and I couldn't get one to take it. No recycle yards would take it, no scrap yards. I had to pay to get rid of that thing. So I just put an ad out on Craigslist, $100 for a motorhome, first come, first served. There's a nice 454 in there. Someone came and picked it up right away.
Mhm.
But it was just like, oh man, it was really hard to get rid of the vehicle. Okay. question for you guys that I have. These 3 properties, you said you're working with regional planning or code enforcement for the,
Regional plan, Ricardo Mesa.
okay.
Zoning enforcement.
Okay, and then Lhasa and Valley West, whoever else, so it's like a coordinated effort to help everyone get the services they need and also help property owners maintain some sense of order or, control of their own property as well.
So we can expand on it a little bit to give you a little bit of background on our homeless outreach services team. We have a team abide by the Los Angeles Homeless Encampment Protocol, which is a 5-step process. So you have your identification, assessment, outreach, posting, and a cleanup. Usually it's about a 30-day process. So once you've identified the area or encampment, if you will, we do 5 or more homeless individuals within an encampment. Then we'll do an assessment. Okay, we'll get to know the people, we'll build that rapport. And then we'll bring in our LASA, or up here, they have the Valley Oasis outreach teams as well. And we'll start getting to know the nuts and bolts of who they are, how they operate, the individuals, and we want to really kind of, get down to their level and see what their needs are. We want to curtail the services to their specific needs. And then with that process, it builds, like I said earlier, it builds a rapport, gets them to trust us, gets them to trust the outreach workers. And we've had tremendous success with that. So that's where that kind of filters into that 3rd step of outreach. So they know that we're coming around, they know, hey guys, and they're constantly letting the people know the cleanup's coming and it's time to get off the property. And I'm more so speaking for county property, but I'll touch into the private property after here in a minute. But as that develops, we work with our public works department through the county. They'll provide the cleanup services and all that. So we'll start getting all that engagement, getting them ready for the cleanup date. But we'll let the homeless individuals know, hey, the cleanup's coming, hey, take the services, or we'll line stuff up if it's housing, shelter, if it's, or even rehab or mental health services. So we also have a mental evaluation team in the sheriff's department, which is a Met deputy along with a DMH clinician. And they have tremendous resources on that end for people who are suffering from mental illnesses. So all these resources are at the hand with us to be able to assist them in any way possible. Now, the next step would end up coming into a posting. So it's 2 postings for a total of 14 days. So you do 1 on day 1 and 1 at day 7. And then that's like, okay, hey guys, this is 2 weeks till it's time for the cleanup. And once that cleanup date starts, we've already got our public. So like I said, I'm just going to talk about the county-owned property. Public Works will come in. They're going to do the cleanup. They'll have Ocean Blue usually, which is a contracted hazmat services. They'll come in and we'll just slowly, depending on how long it's going to take, could take 1, 2, 3, maybe a week or 2-week cleanup, depending how big, this encampment is. Go in, do the cleanup process, and some people take services, some people don't, but at the end of it, either they've left on their own or they've accepted services and that area gets cleaned up. So that's traditionally how our team works throughout the county. Up here, we also, as the team does, is we do a lot of private property stuff. And so the team up here, they do an amazing job at engaging with those private property owners and getting them to have that the LOA, which is the letter of agency with the local station, whether it be Palmdale Station or Lancaster Station. And that helps us as a team be able to assist the property owner in starting that that protocol with whatever homeless individuals are on that private property. Now, with that letter of agency, they don't have to abide by the protocol that we do. We suggest it. We say this is your best course of action for protection. But again, if the property owner wants to do like a 3-day posting, hey, no trespassing, it's time to go, we'll assist as security, and we'll assist them along the route to do it properly so it keeps them out of litigation, if that makes sense. We'll come in, we'll help document, and one of the things that we normally do, so on the previous expansion I talked about when we do county properties, DPW or Department of Public Works has a storage unit to store some of these individual stuff for 90 days. That's one of our biggest components. And so we bestow that knowledge upon the private property owner to let them know, hey, if you have a group of individuals, obviously they're trespassing, they need to go. You know, we'll bring, like I said, we'll bring the outreach workers there to get them the services or whatnot. But it's incumbent upon the private property owner to provide the cleanup services. And we suggest making sure that they do a 90-day storage, at least a 90-day storage, so that way, and that's typically the stuff that you're looking at is, you know, medication, heirlooms, jewelry, or legal documents. So that's huge. And then we'll get on tape, we'll identify what's left in the area and whether it's trash or if it's infested or whatever, and everything else is removed, we can help with the private property owner on that aspect. It helps them legally. So, but that's what the team's really here for, because I know you guys have a lot of private property owners, a lot of parcels that are unfortunately suffering from this right at the moment. So, and, you know, I shouldn't say attack, we engage with them humanely, because what the ultimate goal is to basically get everybody help. And so that's why our team is what we call a co-response team. And our outreach partners would be last traditionally, but Valley Waste is up here too. So we bring all the county entities and all the resources and services to help your community and help all your private property owners. That's kind of a little bit of what we do in our background in a nutshell.
That's pretty cool. That's kind of like what every single advocate about police change has been asking for. You guys have mental health, you guys have all these different factions. You're not just rolling up with guns and bullying people out.
No.
Thank you. That means a lot. Especially it's shown the growth within the department and culture wise, and it's also shown in the community that you guys aren't just out there to bash in bad guys' heads and kick people out when someone snaps their fingers. So getting those people the help that they needed and following every step was the most important to me. I know it was very important to Tom. We talked about this a year ago. You know, I've been feeding those guys out there when I can. I'm not trying to enable them, but I'm not trying to have dead people, because we probably had about 8 homeless die out there since they showed up 8 years ago. We've never had homeless in this town. It's too far from everything. And then we had a colony of veterans come out and they held it down and they kept that desert clean. And then when they started going away and this whole new wave of energy people that came, it kind of just flipped and got different. So we're appreciative. And I want to make sure that everyone else out there knows that we're here to help them as much as you guys. So you guys are actually the new face of policing. And I say that in a really positive way, because the rest of the world needs to see that in what you guys are doing. So thank you very much. And my question that I have for you guys is, what could we do to assist you guys? Can we ask that you get more resources? Could we go to a meeting and say, hey, this program's working, you need to keep funding it? If there's something like that we can do to help you guys for what you've been doing to help us, let us know, because those are the kind of things that we like to do. I don't have a problem with going down and sitting a whole day downtown with, you know, Catherine and all the rest of the elites down there and advocating for you guys to keep getting funding or more money for what you're doing, because it's a really good, positive thing. So thank you.
Well, we appreciate all the kind words, and we really do. And to give a little bit more is, each one of these deputies, specifically up here, a lot of these guys live up here. And so they're handpicked for not only their backgrounds, but for their maturity, number one. I mean, they understand the differences between escalating and de-escalating. And I say that more so as getting into that rapport building. And we're not trying to, in essence, cause a fight or pick a fight. We're really just, we want to know that individual. I mean, yeah, we wear a uniform, we have a gun on us, but that's more so to protect us, but it's also to protect them. And we're here to basically, what's your story? How come you're in this predicament? What can we do to help you? And sometimes it's not the first time we come and talk to them. Sometimes it's the second time, sometimes it's the third time. You know, we may come to talk to them, they may not be warmed up to want to talk to us, so we'll just go, everybody, here's a water, here's a meal. Hey, whatever we can do. And then that kind of slowly builds upon. So during that process, during our, our engagement with them, coming out with the outreach workers, and it starts to slowly kind of break that barrier down, and it lets their guard down enough to where they want to actually talk to us and really kind of just tell us where they've been and where they're at. And that's the magic of it all, really.
Cool.
And so for us, our success is, it's not so much, I mean, we've all taken people to jail, but that's not where we're at anymore as far as this team. So our success and our pride is being able to make that connection with that individual and get them the success that they need. And that's truly what it's all about.
I mean, I would like to say, I mean, I've only been in this area for 6 years. And like Chris says, I mean, there was an environment out there, but it wasn't bad. It did seem to change, but I like the approach that I'm hearing because of the fact that I think we all agree, and I would like to think most people would agree, that getting the services is the most important. And of course, you can't force anybody to take those services, but I'd rather see the services provided to people and some help being given rather than pushing them to another community, saying, because I don't want it in my backyard. Because I don't think that that's what we're saying. I know I don't, because they've got to go somewhere. But I'd rather, find the housing or the services that they need in order to thrive as human beings. So, because that's what they are.
And the thing is, some of them may not want the services.
Right,
They may leave from there and go either further east or go further north.
right. But that's not pushing them out per
Right.
se.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I
their
know
own
that
personal
It's-
choice that they've made or decision.
before we lived here, we lived in Lakeview Terrace. And a couple of years before the explosion of homeless in Tahunga, Sunland, and Lakeview Terrace was because of the push out down in downtown. I mean, literally, it was overnight. Where you had your local homeless people you'd see that I saw for years and years and years, never heard anybody, and then all of a sudden there were hundreds because they got pushed out. And I would hate to see that happen here, so I'm glad that there's other options at least being given, because like I said, I know you guys can't force anybody to go into services, but I like the approach that's being offered to them.
But now I'll follow up on that a little bit. So my approach is always hope for the best and plan for the worst. So, I mean, it's easy to talk about it in this room right now, but how do we handle the drug usage and cooking or whatever else they're doing out there's got to be sort of rampant. Are there arrests made, or is that just, are we looking more at treatment for people, or what? You have to run into drug use and inebriated people all the time, correct?
Well, yeah, to kind of address that question, I want to address Chris's also. The thing is, in the environment we're in nowadays, love it or hate it, I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but we're about solving problems. If we arrest them for narcotics, usage or possession, they'll go to jail for 2 hours, they'll be right back out, and they'll be right back out. But have we solved the problem?
No.
So it's better to address the problem approach. If their problem is drug use, maybe not the first time, maybe not the second time, maybe the third time, maybe the fourth time. I have a success story of placing someone who was homeless for 25 years, and you would never think he finally said he was tired of it. It's to connect them to that rehabilitation services if they want to take it, because obviously it's voluntary on their part. But if that option is available and you don't have to go the arrest route and the legal route for that, if we go more the humanitarian compassion route and connect them to that rehabilitation service, and then they get connected to the rehab, and then they get themselves together, they get themselves housed, and now they're out of your area permanently. That is more of the problem solving approach, whereas in the old days, yeah, okay, we'll just arrest them for the narcotics use and, 2 days later, they're right back. So does that really solve the problem for you?
Can I ask just one question
Let me
about?
follow up too, but yeah.
I just want to,
Yeah,
real quick, if
sure,
you don't mind.
sure, Sergeant. No, not at all.
To follow up on one part that you had said in your conversation, now there's a difference. There's someone who's using.
So I was just gonna ask,
Detail-
what are the
detail?
red flags that,
Right,
Okay.
so there's someone that's on the street that's using dope or whatever that is gonna need the help in the rehab that Josh was talking about. But you had made a comment about someone who was cooking, and I'm assuming that's That's something you talk about, if someone has like a meth lab or something like
Well,
that going on.
I mean, I've lived out in the desert a long time. When a fire happens in an RV out in the
Yeah.
middle, we all go to, okay, that, could, something,
So
he
something
wasn't
to-
cooking beans out there.
Right.
So my question is like, what are the red flags? So the users, we take a path with the users. What are the red flags that are gonna say, we're gonna go after this property owner, we're gonna go after I mean, obviously a dealer or whatever. but-
Right, so if we're able to identify something like that, if there are guys dealing dope out of an RV, or if he's cooking meth out of an RV, that's something that we would take and find that information, we would relate to one of our cops teams. Or we would do it to narcotics bureau, and that's something they can kind of tackle, but that in essence is a little bit more above something that's low level homelessness that we would normally do.
Okay,
Someone who's on the street that's suffering from addiction, on a day-to-day basis, they've got whatever money or they're pawning something to basically feed their habit. That's prime for us to go and talk to them because they obviously are homeless, but their addiction has made it to where they're homeless. And we can step in and bridge that gap to get them to rehab.
So-
And that's what we've done best. I mean, our team has been very good at getting very good successes in engaging with those, building their rapport and getting them into rehab where they've successfully completed rehab, are in that shelter, they've gone from shelter rehab into housing and are getting job placement. I mean, it's pretty amazing to see that success in the very end.
So those few passes that you're giving them and not just being the traditional
Yeah,
role that they're thinking of and I'll be out in 3 hours. You just gave them something to think about. And then sure, they kind of go back in their normal, then you catch them a second or a third time and they're like, oh, these guys are different. So they're thinking of you different. Very cool.
You want to hear kind of a simplistic approach to it. You notice all of us are wearing brown boots. You would think that's not a big thing. It's dirty. I don't like to wear black boots because they get dirty really easily here as we go.
But we know.
But
nothing
you'd be
about
surprised, you should be surprised, they know that. All the communities and homeless communities we've dealt with,
is that right?
they know that, they know, oh, those are the brown boot guys, and they're more open to talk to us, they're more open to communicate with us, especially if they've had prior contact with us. Because they know what our mission is. Our mission isn't to take them to jail. And it's just something simple as that. It's funny because I've actually heard them say, oh, those are the brown boot guys.
I'm gonna call you guys the brown boots now.
It's the boots, but also this is what we're wearing right here, the tan polos. And more of the dress down, easier to approach versus that rigid,
Flak
class
jacket.
A, star, gun belt, everything else kind of throws it off. I mean, we do wear an overvest a little bit, but with the tan pole, the brown boots that Josh was talking about, it's immediately, I mean, we've gone into 10 situations in homeless encampments where the moment we put boots to the ground in there, we've brought that tempo down dramatically. And because they're like, oh, hey, and a lot of the guys know who we are. So they'll come up and they'll, whatever may be kind of tense in the situation, drops, they'll come up and they'll just start engaging with us. And it's a pretty cool dynamic. And I know I can speak for all of us on the team, because I oversee, as the sergeant on the team, I oversee the north end. So from Malibu all the way down the valley, and the east team, which is like East LA, all the way east to San Dimas, and then foothills and all that, and San Gabriel River, all that. So that's, but you have some of the best actors. I can say that hands down. And I would implore upon all of you, if you ever wanted up here to come out and see how these guys operate. It's a game changer, and we welcome you guys too. And all the community members out there that are watching. So we're here to help, and you have a really good resource at your fingertips.
Chris had asked a question, I just want to, before we get too far off, you had asked, what can you guys do? The main thing is educate your property owners, because one of our largest barriers, especially with private property, is not being able to get in touch with the property owner. Because our authority becomes extremely limited, especially when it comes to project resolutions on private property. Because the cities of Palmdale and Lancaster have an abatement process through their code enforcement, where if the property owner is non-compliant or can't be reached, the city will basically write an abatement warrant, seize control of the property for purposes of cleaning it up, and then we can come in and assist them with that. And the county does not have a hard process yet. So from your guys' aspect, we're working at our end with Supervisor Barger's office and regional planning. But on your guys' aspects, if you educate these property owners, kind of share our info, have them reach out to us for the assistance, and we'll provide all the assistance we can. That education to them and the information to them will probably help at least alleviate a lot of that barrier.
That's great. Do you guys have like a little 1, 2, 3 step guide, or is that something maybe we can help create from collaborating?
I'll give you guys my card. Send me email. We actually have an FAQ form email that we send out to private property owners. That has a lot of the questions and explains a lot of how our process works.
Okay.
I'll give you guys my card. Send me your email so it captures it in mine, and I'll send that to you, just the generic template form we use for our introduction email.
That would be awesome.
To
And
back up what Josh is saying though, but we definitely will, going forward, these guys will make fun of me, but we will we should make some sort of pamphlet to help that out.
Well, I mean, even if
So-
it's electronic, I mean, it's actually better for, I mean, us if it's electronic, and I can distribute and post to our site if, we've given permission, of course.
Yeah, and
Help
we'll
get the
build
information
out,
out there.
we'll build a flyer for you, and that way an electronic flyer, that way you can send it out and it'll hit all the points of what would help facilitate both our ends and the community. So.
yeah, and on the flyer, if you're like, here's our steps to help these folks, because we don't ever want to be like, here's how you kick someone off your property. We don't ever want it to come across that way.
100%.
Even though we don't want someone on our property, we want to kick them off. We don't want to be the person that's just like, get out of here and don't care how they get help. Like, it's just overflowing from LA out here. We want to just do our best to do our part. So that would be really appreciative. I think it would be very helpful for a lot of people.
Now,
If we could-
have you guys heard of LA Hop?
Mm-mm.
LAHop.org. It's actually a website. It was created by LASA. It's managed by LASA. But it's basically that any member of the general public can go on there and request services, and it won't come to us. It's actually done through LASA, and they'll send a local outreach team within 72 hours to any request that's put on there. And it's very easy to fill out. There's a lot of drop-down menus just to describe what you are. It takes literally less 5 to 7 minutes to fill out a request real quick, type it in and send it, and they can even contact you via email when they send somebody out.
What's that called again, please?
It's lahop.org. LA-HOP.org.
And a lot of the times when that stuff gets filtered through lahop.org, it goes to our LASA partners and coordinate with us. We have weekly meetings with our partners where we get together to discuss upcoming stuff, our protocols, or even some of these requests. And so if they've identified, or we get something through, or they'll get something through LAHOP, they'll notify us, and together as a team, we go out and address
Will they go on private property?
it. If the private property owner is amenable to it.
You see, I think unfortunately, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of times it's really hard to find the property owners because they don't even live in the states.
Yeah, we're out of the areas, majority of them are.
I have
Investment
access to the
properties.
regional planning's website to actually obtain property owner information
Nice.
that I can pull up. But like you said, a lot of times it's and I know a lot of these properties have been in somebody's
LLC,
family, and it's an LLC, and it's been in their family for 75 years, and they don't even pay any attention.
I find it's interesting though, they do get a property tax bill. And if they still have the property, they're paying it. So I wonder about that. Is it really that hard to get?
Send it with that property bill.
Just saying.
Well, because when regional planning starts sending them out notices, they act like they'd never seen it.
Okay,
And
yeah.
that is not always the case, because there was another property here, Charles Blossom, actually told me they were actually 3 years behind.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, all right. I'm sorry, Chris. just
Yeah,
one
go
more
ahead.
thing. If we just coming back to solutions here for a minute. The Santa Ana Riverbed a few years ago in Orange County, there was a huge encampment there, and they were able to get that cleared. It actually went to federal court. This guy, Judge Carter, went out there, took a look at it, and they came up with 3 things. They could either go to services like what we're talking about here, or well, one option was a bus ticket to go, a free bus ticket to go live with a friend or relative. Is that an option?
So
For,
We do have organizations. There's one based out of Santa Monica, and then LASA also has one for family reunification.
Okay.
But one part of that family reunification is the person has to be willing to go. If they are willing to go, I know LASA, we connected, is a gentleman at Grant Park. We actually got him to the bus station, LASA got him on the bus and sent him back to, where did he go? Was it New York?
Steve just housed someone in Ohio that they flew him out.
Or the guy, the sign language guy.
So yeah, there are organizations we work with, and there's West Coast Community Church that's based out of Santa Monica.
West Coast Care.
West Coast Care, I'm sorry.
Pastor Ron Hooks.
Yeah, Pastor Ron.
Okay.
So we have really good connections, like Josh was saying, to facilitate some of this stuff, but it just depends on a case by case basis, but in that particular area we're talking about, Senator Rubin, and we have a very good relationship with Judge Carter. And a lot of what we do in our account protocol was at the direction, but also put together with Judge Carter's approval. So we did everything the right way to make sure that this is the national standard. This is how we handle this. And so the humane way to do it, and we've had tremendous success.
Is Yellow, I'm sorry, is Yellow Valley in Judge Carter's district then?
Yeah, because he actually ordered, it was a year and a half, 2 years ago, we actually had to go and assess all the freeway over and underpasses throughout the county
Okay,
and sheriff's jurisdiction.
He's a federal judge.
Right.
So
yeah,
I'm sure this is part of it, but a lot of that happened there and what his I guess judgment would have been is based off the Boise decision.
Mhm.
So, and what that basically says, you can't criminalize homelessness to an extent, meaning if someone's sleeping in a park, the park may say no camping overnight, and you tell the student, hey, you gotta go, and you arrest them, that's where the case law came in. So you can't just take that person just because he doesn't have a place to sleep. So you want to be, but the caveat to it is if you have shelter available and you offer to him and he refuses, now we're stepping into a where he could be an arrestable offense. But if he has shelter and he wants to take it, that's perfect. And that's where we really come into. I mean, but we're not about the business to offer it and they're not wanting to go and then we come in and just swoop them up. We'll continue to build that rapport with them and continue to engage with them. And, you know, it's been successful every time. It's been great.
I have another question for you guys. Usually you come to encampments and larger groups. Do you come across unique individual circumstances? For example, there's a young man here in this town and he feed everybody out there for 5 years. I got real busy over the last year. He kept taking food from the school and feeding people, and there's families that live out there, you guys know. And one day he returned back, not quite there. And then within 2 weeks, he was living out in the desert. They stole everything from him. And his name's Frankie. I don't know if you guys met Frankie yet. I can introduce, he used to live up here at Daymax, help Rodney with all the food until he shut down. And anyways, this young man was sharp. And I feel like in his good services, he was exposed to something. And then that took him further down. Now he has, I don't think he's doing drugs. I think he has a mental issue now. And Cronin's tried to help him. They went to do a 50, they did the question, they held him, they asked him all these questions. He was smart enough to answer everything right. But yet, not even an hour later, he's walking circles on the Highway 138.
Yeah.
And at what point does someone like that, who can kill people driving in their cars because they'd be afraid to hit them and then they cause a big accident, at what point do we in society say, you're not allowed to walk around like this, or because you're answering these 3 questions right, but your behaviors are not showing that you can take care of yourself? Like, how do we address someone like that? Because I don't think this kid can be helped. And if he can, I would just pray and love for him to be helped. But how do we help someone like that, who's just so far out there in the actual danger?
So it sounds like you guys have done the right thing and made your attempts to go out there and talk to them, engage with them and try to get them some help. Deputy Cronin had went out there and obviously trying to do his part. But what we can do as a team, like we have all the resources and all the services, and what we could do is, if you make the introduction, we figure out who this person is, we'll bring our Met deputy up here with the clinician, and now we'll start the process with them. And so we have our risk assessment management program through our Met team, which is our ramp team. And they do the bigger follow-up, the bigger engagement on that mental health side with Frankie. That's what they would do.
Okay,
And so they can get him the better resources. They can identify specifically like, what is he suffering from? And then they can explore that and really dive deep and then get him the better help. And that way, where maybe it is a trip to, you know, a mental health hospital to get him the help that he needs. And then you get to the right doctor who they can, you know, diagnose him and then really just kind of hone in and really give him the proper help that he needs. And that's something that we can facilitate and see what we can do, because our last thing we want is we don't want someone to die, you know, especially if they're out walking around on 138. I mean, people
Yeah.
drive like crazy out there.
it
We don't
was
want
just,
him to die, and we don't want other people to be injured as well. And right there, I can tell you that's a danger to self and others. And so that's
Okay.
that criteria right there for one of our goals. But, you know, I'll get Josh and Bobby and Sean out there with our Met deputy, which is Deputy Madrano. And then we can really help facilitate that.
And if he's actually experiencing, like you guys have said, like they came out, they talked to him, he answered all 3 questions right, and then he went out and did that again. Now he's in crisis. If he's in crisis, call the station. The station can respond. There are Met deputies working days and PM shifts from 6 in the morning to 2 in the evening until 2 in the morning. They can come out, but you have to be willing to say, because once again, he's gonna see deputies, he's gonna see uniform, he's gonna answer the 3 questions or to the ability, because he knows the game. But now if you saw him doing it and you said the deputy, because they can place a hold based on somebody else's observation. We have the authority to do that. As long as you guys are credible, which you are, you're members of the town council, so you're credible. I can take that credible witness statement saying that they saw him walking circles, as long as it's fresh. It's, I saw him walking circles 5 days ago, it's not gonna work.
A year ago.
You can, if you call it in as it happened or contemporaneously from the incident, they can place a hold based off that information, or they can at least detain him for
Okay.
Met to come out and do an evaluation and have Met talk to you. And then can maybe place a hold on him to get him help.
And video helps too. So if you're out there and you see it
Absolutely.
in real time, get the video. 'Cause that'll help facilitate for us as well.
okay,
He's gonna
because,
say that- he's gonna say the 3 magic, no, I'm not.
and he's gotten out of it already. I mean, he was walking in circles over in front of Charlie Brown's, and then he got released, and Nikki even tried to help me.
By a car, and he made people swerve.
The main
All
important
that.
thing there is that you be a good witness.
Okay,
Don't just call and say, don't contact me. Because if the only person they're gonna talk to is him, then they gotta go off that information.
no, I
If you're willing
thank
to come
you.
out and engage with the deputy and say, hey, this is what I saw him doing. Okay, based on that, okay, we're gonna have Matt come out and we'll talk to him more. Maybe we need to address the
I
situation.
would just like to him at least have a 1% chance of something better than that, because I used to have full-blown intellectual conversations with this guy, and he doesn't even know who I am right now. And it's just, he comes up and digs fresh hamburgers out of the trash and peels them right off the top and eats. And we try giving him food. So like, there's just some sort of just big disconnect and something that happened to him. So thank you. That video part in the crisis, you said, you know, he's in crisis. That's like a key word. You know, my father, he was always teaching me, there's certain words that mean something and that are like, you pay attention. So he already had his evaluation. He's out there doing it again. He's in crisis. Here's a video and we need to get him some help. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And that helps too, if you call 911, right? Like what Josh said, if it's happening in the moment, you call 911 saying, hey, I got a guy in crisis right now. This is what he's doing. It jumps up the speed
Okay.
for response. So,
You're actually gonna see a more coordinated response to that and then stick around. Because as I said, that's the biggest important thing, stick around and be a good witness.
Yep.
I saw him doing this. Because I've experienced that myself, where I've come up and talked to someone and they're I don't wanna talk to you, I'm fine, I don't wanna hurt myself, nothing else. And I had two people going, and say, we saw her reeling her wheelchair in traffic. Okay, that's good enough. Thank you very much. You guys are credible. Based on what you're telling me, that's good enough for me to place the hold. So,
So say he gets in a hold and then like they do an evaluate, was it like a 2-3 day hold? Like what happens from there?
Typically, it's a 72, traditionally a 5150 is a 72-hour hold. Now, that can change depending on the doctor's observations and their, initial assessment of the patient. So that's something that we really don't do. Well, our job really is to get that person into a mental health hospital to get them in front of a doctor and get them that immediate help. We want to remove them from them potentially hurting themselves or others and getting them the proper help. Now, sometimes, the doctors may make an assessment or he may answer the right questions and then the doctor has nothing else more he can do and they'll research his background and then maybe release him depending on after a few hours of observation. However, that's why I bring up our mental health team that's partnered with a DMH clinician, and then they're high utilizer, I guess, if you will, team, the ramp team of HeartMed can do that further investigation, really dig deeper into his background and what's really kind of making him tick. And then they have their own set of services and resources to really get him maybe that curtailed help that he really needs.
Okay.
Well, our team does have the med team, the clinician, as Sarge saying, that's attached to us, that we can do an outreach day and schedule that deputy clinician to go out with us to do outreach. But the stations, there is med deputies and clinicians that are willing to respond to calls too. So not just our med deputy, you call the station, they'll call the triage desk on a call like Ricky or
Frankie.
Yeah.
They would call the station and then they would send a med deputy with the clinician out with the regular deputy who's already responding. That works out here in Little Rock.
Yeah, planned stuff we can do, but immediate stuff that happens, like Bobby was saying, call the station, call 911, get that help immediately.
Okay,
But
especially when
some-
you guys are out on your Friday venture, ready for your fun weekend, right?
No, I mean, but if we're out here and you guys see us out here and you go, hey, there's Frankie right there. And you'll have our contact information, you can let us know too. And then if we have the med deputy there, that's even better because it's a faster response. You guys know, you're a little bit farther on the outskirts. And so to get the resources to you, it's a longer roll, it's a longer response. You don't necessarily, if you're in the city of Palmdale, you're in the city of Lancaster, that response is minutes.
Right.
Here it's 10, 15, 20, 25 minutes to get that resource out here.
Yeah, we've had a couple
I know,
days
and you
before.
guys- And you guys know, but that's why, Bobby hit it right on the nose, so did Josh. And
No.
call 911 for that immediate response, because it bumps up our response as far as, from a normal patrol call to a code response.
Okay, he's in crisis. All right.
Chris, just to ask, does Frankie live not on the main, like if you pull out by the bathrooms, there's that main one, but then there's a couple of camps back and it's kind of off, there's a trailer kind of off, it'd be like the furthest west.
I don't know if he's in his own trailer.
Because I know there
he
is
was
a
living-
gentleman that stays there that other persons there have told us and kind of directed us to him, and we've had our med deputy talk to him a couple of times, but I can't remember his name offhand. I'd have to
Tom was there, was that?
Yeah, I remember,
On the
was his name Scott? That comes to mind.
Yeah, I
one
can't
on the
remember
left
that was
side.
thank you.
Yeah, about
Right
30
before
years
you said-
old, white, kind of brown.
Was that
medium
him?
brown hair, yeah.
It was him?
Sounds familiar. I've
That was the
actually,
last person, remember before we left that day, you came out with us?
Yeah.
That was the last person we spoke to.
he's 5150.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when the med deputy asked him all the questions, he answered all the right verbiage.
So I have a picture of, I actually have Frankie's ID and a picture of his ID and a picture of him. So I could share that with you guys if you want, in case you maybe already ran into him. But what I could do, I guys got your cards, and when I do run into Frankie and I do see him having his behavior, because sometimes he'll just disappear and he'll stay up at Rodney's house and he just does circles in the yard.
Yeah.
And Rodney does his best to keep him out, but he can't he can't force them to stay. He doesn't want to get in trouble for
That's
kidnapping or
kidnapping.
anything, so. He goes, Frankie leaves every once in a while. No, that's not him.
That was the one that we.
But he
That's
looks,
the one we talked to.
but he does
That's-
look about that desert warm too, though.
That's
That desert chap skin.
Yeah.
All right, well, do you guys have any questions?
I have a question. So you mentioned that your team is funded. How long are you guys funded for as far as, is this months, years?
So I say that because Barter's basically made a commitment to the rest of the board of supervisors and to the team, because she believes in our deputies and what we do. So she's committed to the funding. The team, to an extent, has some county funding as it is to, under our, so let me get back on track. The homeless outreach service team post, we fall under a bureau, and the bureau's Community Partnerships Bureau. So we're a unit under that umbrella. Now, traditionally, we have 4 funded deputies, 1 funded sergeant, 1 funded lieutenant for the host team that the county board of supervisors pays for as a whole. We have technically 26 in total on the team, but we have 22 that are not funded. And I take that back. It's 29. Nope, 4 or 8, and my math is horrible. Roughly 18 or so that are not funded, right? So you've got 4 funded by the county, 4 now funded by Board of Supervisor Catherine Bartry, which makes 8. And then we have 1 DMH funded item, so Department of Mental Health. So we actually have a deputy that is funded by DMH that is like our partner with our med deputy as well, but on the homeless aspect. And so that together, that's 9, but the rest of our personnel are unfunded at the moment. We've had board motions and stuff like that. I don't want to get into the politics of it, but still waiting on the funding to an extent. But the board really appreciates and supports our team. So from all 5 of the board supervisors.
I'd like to extend our support and make sure the supervisor knows that we appreciate what you're doing, and they should keep funding, if not give you more money, to continue your guys' good mission.
Well, we really appreciate the support from all of them. So thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? You guys have any questions for us or anything you want to say, or?
I'll start. I'll just say, thank you again to each and every one of you and to the community members that are watching. We appreciate you letting us talk and letting us introduce ourselves and let you know basically what we do, and that we are here as a dedicated team for you and your community. And any questions, we'll leave all of our contact information, anything that we can to help out. But yeah, these guys are the best at what they do, and so. And let's just say there's someone besides us who sees a campman or something. What's the best number for them to call? Like, if they couldn't get a hold of us or weren't in this meeting, like, how do?
Yeah, if they want a law enforcement response, you can just call the local patrol station.
Right.
I'll leave our cards, so you have our office and our cell phone numbers. But LA Hop is probably the best way that gets an immediate outreach response.
Okay.
So we'll have, like I said, we'll leave our contact information. We'll have a number that they can call, but we'll mostly be an email if they have email, or we'll leave both, a phone number and an email that they can reach out to us and loop us in on everything. So like I said, there is that little bit of delay with LA Hop filtering through LASA, but this is a more direct way for us. And we support our patrol stations, who are basically, our department as a whole is being decimated as far as personnel. So we're kind of, I'll use the term bleeding out. And so a lot of our patrol stations are being taxed with a 30% deficit. So we, as the homeless outreach service team, are doing our best to basically support that aspect and help kind of relieve the patrol stations of that burden. So, but as for, like Josh was saying, some of more of the immediate responses call the station. Our team covers all of Antelope Valley, and Santa Clarita, the north team. So we're kind of all over the place, but I don't want that to dissuade you that, you know, we're not around or we're not available, because we are, and that's why I say we do have a dedicated team, so.
Well, sweet. I've done the homeless count for the last 7 years out here, or 6 years since we've had it. I've watched it grow across this whole desert from here to northeast county, all the way up in High Vista. And you guys don't have an easy job. Thank you for what you do. Appreciate your time, asking any of the questions that we had. And we always here in this council look forward to collaborating with our local governments and enforcement. We do support the badge here in our town. You're always welcome. I wish we had more cafes and coffee shops for you guys to stop into. You know, we used to. Hopefully our bistro will be back open. I heard we have a new business owner, so looking forward to it. And one day I would like to say thank you to you, gentlemen, for what you do. Not just with the being officers, but this unique role that you guys have, you know, in a transition of where police are going from like this old school, you know, mentality. And then you have all these people over here, and these worlds are meeting right now. And you guys are that world, you know. You guys are going to be the role model for future officers. You're going to be the role model for future programs and how they get paid and funded. So we want to help support that in any way. So at any given time, you're like, hey, Chris, I need a letter from the council supporting. You know, we only have 6 months of funding left. We need to support to get another 2 years, 3 years. We'll jump on that in a second. We'll get other councils and we'll get other organizations to help get that letter. Yeah, I have to talk into my phone and then see that surface and all that.
Well,
But
Ciphers is
yeah,
right.
that means a lot to all of us. And like I said, especially with these guys, they live up here in the community. And so it means a lot to all.
It's gotta be a change of pace. I mean, having to break through that wall for these guys, coming up to them and like, hold on a second, I'm not here to jam you up here, you know, to talk to me, what's going on with you? Like you said, have a water here, you know, you need something to eat, what's going on? You know, we'll be back next week, come say hi to me, you know, like I initially, when they first see it, you know, the traditional thinking is like, oh man, I gotta get out of here, this guy, you know, he's gonna jam me up about this or that, or whatever, yeah, that's
Well, you can tell the ones that start walking away or don't want to come out. They probably do have a warrant,
yeah,
and we don't,
we're
I'm
not
not
here
saying
to,
that we don't care,
right,
just saying, hey, we're not
That's
here to
not
jam
what
you
we're
up for
for.
that.
yeah,
Obviously now if he's wanted for murder or something, that's a little different, that we gotta do our job.
yeah,
You know, we're still deputy sheriffs first. They might say, oh, you know, I have a ticket, a warrant, $15,000, whatever. We're not here for that. We're sure to help you out. A lot of times, once you do get all that help, they get legal services through, I know Valley Oasis has, I can't think of the law firm. They have connection to there where they can expunge some stuff like that for them if they're gonna get services.
right,
So, you know, we try to tell them, hey, don't freak out. We're not here to jam you up for a little 10K warrant. You know,
Yeah.
we're here to talk to you, try to get you help.
right,
And that's how we get them to just talk to us. And
builds a trust,
yeah, build the trust.
you know,
And-
open the communication.
And to what Bobby's saying, which these guys do an amazing job with, is some of our bigger encampments, we'll do a homeless connecting. So we'll bring all of our resource partners, we'll even bring showers, we'll bring some of the other homeless individuals that we've actually had success with. One, Barber Joe, one of the guys, he'll come up, we'll get him to do haircuts for these homeless individuals. Well, like he said, we'll get
Make
the
him feel
DA's office to come out. They'll set up shop and they'll start talking to these people like, hey, what do you got? Let's see, let's check you out. Okay, you got a warrant or you got a ticket, let's get that expunged, or let's move this over here, let's get him off the record. And that's all stuff that's all built in-house within our unit. And we can bring that to the table and really help out. And tell you, these guys do the best at it.
You guys need a little small camera person, just like glorifying the hell out of all this, just so they know that this is how policing's working.
Chris, you volunteering?
Yeah, I'm a little busy. I'll paint a picture of what.
We're trying to look for a social media person. So.
But all right, gentlemen, I appreciate everything you guys you guys have done and very much
Oh,
appreciate
I'd
it.
like to add one thing.
Yes, sir.
If you want to follow us, if you have Instagram, it's LASD host.
Host.
So so the sheriff, our sheriff's department acronym LASD and then HOST.
If I can't hold this out any longer, I guess I Instagram, don't I?
You need to go.
Keep up with your kids.
It's actually better than Facebook. So.
Yeah, exactly.
So we believe our cards, like you said, like if you see encampments, email us, but please try to use LA Hop because that alerts our outreach component, which is Valley Oasis. And that's out here to get someone within 72 hours to go and assess that location too.
Okay.
At least we'll have a paper trail of someone asked for resources, not just the host resources, they also ask.
If it isn't in writing, it didn't happen.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm gonna stop recording on my backup recorder.
And here's the Pearblossom RTCs, our